Thank you for choosing us this afternoon. First, Member of Parliament for Tafo, Vincent Eko Asefo, has sued Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayine at the Supreme Court over petitions to remove Chief Justice. You recall that on Tuesday, President John Mahama began consultation with the Council of State following 3 separate petitions seeking the removal of the Chief Justice. The petitions submitted by various individuals have been forwarded to the Council of State as required by Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution. Now, in this suit, Eko Asefo is asking for the following, which I'll be showing you on your screens shortly. Petition to remove Chief Justice. And it says that nature of relief sought as follows. 1, a declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of Articles 146, Clause 1, 2, 4, 6, and 7, and 23, and also 57, Clause 3, and 296 of the 1992 Constitution, the President is mandated to notify the Chief Justice about a petition for the removal of the Chief Justice and obtain his or her comments and responses to the content of such petition before referring the petition to the Council of State or commencing the consultation. It also continues to say that a declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of Articles 146, Clause 1, 2, 4, 6, and 7, and Article 23 and 296 of the 1992 Constitution, a failure by the President to notify the Chief Justice and obtain his or her comments and responses to a petition for the removal of the Chief Justice before triggering the consultation process with the Council of States will constitute a violation of Article 146, Clause 6, as well as the constitutional protection of the security of tenure of the Chief Justice, who is a Justice of the Superior Court of Judicature, stipulated in Article 146(1) of the Constitution. Also, third relief that he's seeking, a declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of Articles 146, 1, 2, 4, 6, and 7, 23, Article 23, Clause 57, 3, and 296 again of the 1992 Constitution, a failure by the President to notify the Chief Justice and obtain his or her comments and responses to a petition for the removal of the Chief Justice before triggering the consultation process with the Council of State amounts to an unjustified interference with the independence of the judiciary enshrined in Articles 127, 1, and 2 of the Constitution. Well, let's speak to former Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tiayebwa on this. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. You may have seen the reliefs that Eko Asefo, Member of Parliament for Tafo, is seeking. Are these grounded in law?
Well, thank you very much, my sister. Yes, I have seen the writ filed by Eko Asefo, and I've also seen the relief that he's seeking from the Supreme Court. I mean, it's so basic that if you have an issue relating to an unconstitutional conduct on the part of any public officer, including the President, or you may want any interpretation of the Constitution, then per our constitutional architecture, you have the right to go to the Supreme Court to ask for various relief. And so looking at the relief that the gentleman is seeking, it's only in a way upholding his rights under the Constitution to ensure that the right things are done. That's from his point of view.
Well, are there any ambiguities so far in the processes that the President has been following so far, especially following him receiving the petitions? I'm certain that you may have heard or seen that he has consulted with the Council of State so far. What really is the ambiguity for the gentleman to want to exercise his rights as a citizen at the Supreme Court?
If you read the writ that a gentleman has filed, he's not talking about ambiguity. He's talking about an act having been done by the President, and he thinks that that act is an unconstitutional act. So he's not going to ask for any ambiguity to be cleared. I mean, the issue that he has raised in this writ is whether the President, upon receipt of a petition, will have to notify the Chief Justice before he consults the Council of State for a prima facie case to be made. That is the crux of the whole writ, as I can read from what I've also seen. And so that question needs to be answered by the Supreme Court. And I think it's not something that we should just gloss over. It's so fundamental. If that's the case, then the election will be made to that effect. If that's not the case, then the Supreme Court will want to declare the other way around. But that's the crux of the case.
Considering the process is supposed to be done in camera, whatever part the process has been prescribed in the Constitution, would it be that the Chief Justice would have to be announcing to us whether or not he's been consulted or he's been allowed to see these allegations leveled against him or the petition at all? Is it that the gentleman in question is probably aware that he or she may know, or he thinks generally there's some sort of violation here?
Yes, you may not know the information the gentleman has. Now that he has filed the writ, the response from the AG will indicate whether that process was gone through or whether the AG disagrees with him, that the CJ will have to be notified. So we have to wait for the response from the AG also.
What's your take on the whole architecture of the judiciary, especially in the interference, which has been some of the concerns that many stakeholders have said? What's the outlook? What's the optics for you?
Yes, if you look at Article 127 of our Constitution, it guarantees the independence of the judiciary. And history will tell us that since independence to date, if my memory serves me right, it was only during the time of Nkrumah that the CJ was removed from office. Let's fast forward to 1992 Constitution. From 1992 to date, no CJ has been removed from office. Why is it so? It's so because we may want to protect the independence of the judiciary. Unless, of course, you have a hardcore evidence against the CJ bordering on incompetence, bordering on impropriety, etc. But any flimsy allegations will not fly because we need to make sure that we protect the independence of the judiciary. I do not know the content of the petition, so I'm making this assertion based on the fact that if you are a petitioner and you may want the CJ to be removed, then you have a very solid base to do it. Because we cannot toy with our democracy by constant removal of our Chief Justice. If we go along that direction, then we are doomed as a nation.
Will it be the frequency of it, and I ask because of the role of law anyway and public accountability? Will it matter at all in optics such as this one?
As I said, I'm not prejudging what the Council of State will be saying or will determine. If there's hardcore evidence and due process is followed, I mean, that's the beauty of rule of law.
Okay.
But I'm only making the point that frivolous, flimsy, and watery allegations will have to be treated carefully in order not to interfere with the independence of the judiciary.
Right. Please stay with me just a moment because President John Dramani Mahama is calling for the establishment of specialized fast-track courts to deal with cases of financial misappropriation in government. Speaking after the Ghana Bar Association paid a courtesy call on him, President Mahama expressed concerns over the misuse of public funds. He believes a specialized court will support the constitutional procedure to uphold individuals accountable in a timely manner. Please tell me, thank you for still staying with me, but tell me, we've had such a system before. I'm not too sure why we don't have it, but is this illegally, in our legal framework currently, can it sit or it will require a certain form of amendment?
All right, yeah, if you look at our court structure, especially if you go to the High Court in Accra, we now have the specialized court. And what does it make a court, or what does it entail to say a court is a fast-track high court? It's about improving the system there. For instance, if you want to automate it, you automate it properly. So that we don't have a system where currently as we have it, you go to court, whatever that you say as a lawyer, the lady simply behind the computer has to type it out for you to see. But we can have a system where as you even argue, automatically it's transcribed. I mean, that's an improvement on the system. So we may choose to name court as fast-track high court, but if we do not have the right ingredients there, then they may be normal high court. But my concern is not even about naming it. It's about how efficient that court system will be. As we have it now, we have laws relating to how cases are supposed to be tried in our courts. And you all know, my sister, that some cases that the previous administration started, of which I was a part, took over 6, 7, 5, 6 years. And we're not able to complete those cases. Why? Because those accused persons, our laws, have the right to challenge every order that a judge makes in case that they are facing trials. And so on, to be able to take away that bit out of our legal system, where we may want to say that you can appeal against an interlocutory order only after the state has closed its case, then we can, I'm telling you, then we can have the fast-track high courts, but still people will go ahead and vindicate their rights by challenging orders of the court. Before we left office, there was a proposal by the AG's office to amend our Criminal Procedure Act. The bill was submitted to Parliament, the Committee on Legislation and Constitutional Affairs. They went through it, but we could not finish it. If you are not going to amend those parts of our laws, you are going to rely on what we have now, then it matters not the name that we give to a court. We are going to fall the same pit.
So for this particular fast-track high court, if I understand you, is it needed or not at all? Can we just work with the legal framework that we have already? Or by all means and at all costs, we should have it?
Already we have the court. If it's about naming, then I think it's not needed. But if it's about improving the infrastructure in the court, then it's something that we all will support. It's not about the name. It's about improving the infrastructure. You can even improve it without even changing the name to make it fast-track court or whatever, because it's about the court dispensing justice. And everybody wants this case to be fast-tracked so that he can know his fate. But the system that we have now, where judges have to even write, those in Accra are even better, can go to the region, where judges have to sit and they have to write everything. So we need to improve that system. If we are ready to commit resources to improve on all the courts in Ghana, the courts in Ghana will work efficiently.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us. But take a listen to what the president said about the fast-track high courts.
We're committed to the protection of human rights and investigation of significant killings or murders that have remained uninvestigated. And so I've urged the police and the investigative organizations to look more actively in cases like Ahmed Swali, and that is how come a first suspect has been arrested. We're hoping that his interrogation will lead to further arrests of people. There are several other cases like the J.B. Dankwa murder case, and we're asking that it be expedited in terms of the prosecution that is taking place and for investigations to be carried out to find out if any other persons were involved in some of those. And so those are ongoing. And then we also have the issue I thought I should raise of the judiciary and the perception of the judiciary. I believe that it is not anecdotal. I mean, several surveys asking Ghanaians, you know, what their opinion of the judiciary is have not come out positively. And I believe that it is a duty for all of us to work to make sure that we have a judiciary that is respected. Year in, year out, you hear 12 billion cedis misappropriated, 15 billion cedis misappropriated. And how we deal with these cases are very difficult because of the constitutional procedure, parliamentary accounts committee and all that. But after that has happened, we must have a fast-track court where we're able to deal with this so that we deter people from just misusing.
Away from that, the Ghana Private Road Transport Union is opposing a proposal by the Interior Minister to introduce a dedicated levy on fuel purchases to retool and enhance the operational capacity of the Ghana National Fire Service. Muntaka Mubarak says his ministry will lay a bill for consideration to that effect.
And all of us need to also make a contribution. And the way to make the contribution, in my view, I'm doing a paper to Cabinet that, look, the fuel that we buy, let's dedicate just 10 pesos per liter just for fire. Because as we speak, when I went to the Ministry of Interior, I realized that the newest tender that we have was procured in 2014. That's more than 10 years. You and I know the way they run. In about 6-7 years, they become obsolete. Yet the newest tender we have is more than 10 years old. Why? For the whole 10 years, as a country, we have not bought even a single fire tender. So sometimes we all blame the fire officer for nothing, because they are using obsolete equipments. So sometimes the frustration, they go through so much frustration themselves. So one of the things that I think, if we can do even 5 pesos on a liter, what it means is that we'll have a dedicated fund to support fire.
Well, I've been joined by the Industrial Relations Officer at the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, Abbas Emero. Thank you for joining us in studio. I'm certain that it's not the first time you have heard this call by the Minister. What's your position on the call?
Well, it's just unfortunate. It's just thinking around fuel. As a professional driver, it's just unfortunate he turned his eyes on fuel. Currently, we are having praying that some of the taxes and levies should be taken off to reduce the fuel prices. You say, yes, we will support getting new fire tenders for Ghana Fire Service or firefighting machines for Ghana Fire Service. But looking at, he first suggested about 10 pesos. He is just looking at 10 pesos. But from the professional driver's point of view, 10 pesos times 4.5 on the liters on the gallon will give you 45 pesos. And should a particular driver, let me use the reasonable minimum, not too much, 10 gallons a day. So this 45 pesos times 10 gallons will give you 45 cedis. Times 26 working days in the month will give you around 170 or 120 cedis a month. We are not on single spine salary, you should know. Whatever we are earning, meaning is going to take 117 out of the small salary that we are earning. We played with the minister Mutaka to put his eyes elsewhere. You see, we are trying, professional drivers, we are trying to allow the citizens to praise us. It looks like you are not trying to praise us. About 2 weeks ago, you had a group of people came up with an upward adjustment in lorry fares. We stood on our ground. We said no. I mean, it wasn't said properly.
But Mr. Emero, you've acknowledged the fact that the National Fire Service will need retooling. And at some point, that money must be taken from somewhere. And as citizens at all costs, you will pay tax anyway, one way or the other, directly or indirectly. If not from this side, where? We are pleading should be elsewhere. Do you have any idea where he should be looking? Oh, we have so many ideas. Where? When the road minister came up that he wanted to reintroduce the road toll, we never hesitate. We immediately accepted it. And even we give in our input. Why? Why did you not oppose to that one? We never opposed because they made us to believe that this time around they will use the money for its purpose. Do you not think that this particular levy will go into the specific thing that they said they were going to retool the National Fire Service? As I said earlier, we are expecting reduction of fuel as I speak now. You see, we serve every government of the day. We don't want to be seen as chasing. Look, recently the transport minister who was appointed, we allow him to get proper briefing before we approach him with some of. We are having problems in the transport industry, but we have harbored it. We are allowing him to have ample time, get proper briefing before we can work with him properly. So we are pleading with the minister. So if they reduce the fuel, but still tax it? It depends. You see, taxes with proper understanding, with proper usage, it will benefit all. If they give you good education and they assure you that the money will be used for the exact thing that they said they are going to use for, will you allow it? But not on the fuel. Not on this the fuel? Yes, this time around. We are expecting, you see, we will know the economy, where it stands now. We will feel it, we are in it,
and we are with it. See, if you push us further, we also make sure we will stick our neck properly.
What does that mean?
Yeah, meaning we are going to come up with upward adjustment where it will currently we are having problems. Now we'll get to the minister to help us to solve that problem. Some of our people, instead of traveling for about 6 miles, we will just divide it into 3. First 2 miles, this is where I'm going. And you can't charge him for deciding to say, I'm going to circle from Accra, and from circle, I'm going to Abekanjo. I mean, that is where he says... Are
you willing to engage the minister on the other ways you think they should raise the funds?
It is not healthy for all of us. We all have children. We'll send them to school, we've given them transport on that route. Just for a child to come, that I walked for a distance because my money could not cover the distances. So this is where we are saying we are having challenges in our industry. We want them to help us to make sure we resolve it by increasing fuel around this time around. They want us to show him. There is an advert. I think, Joy, do you know Unim Red? They want us to show them red. No.
What does that mean?
No.
What does that mean?
Well, let's go forward. Let's move forward.
Thank you for talking to us, Mr. Bas Imoro. Thank you.
Thank you for calling.
Well, moving on, Minister for Local Government and Chieftaincy, Ahmed Ibrahim, is proposing the introduction of sanitation levy to tackle sanitation concerns and water contaminating the country facing. He believes the introduction of the fund and levy is long overdue.
I've just assumed responsibility, and sanitation has just been brought on us. Establishment of sanitation authority and a sanitation levy, sanitation fund will call for a sanitation levy. Well, when you are creating a fund, it means you are instituting a tax. It has to be taken from somewhere to come and establish the fund, and it is long overdue. So it is something when Parliament reconvenes after this adjournment, as a ministry will visit it, and it will.
Now let's speak to former chairman of the Coalition of NGOs in Water and Sanitation, Atahin. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Again, you may have heard this. What's your position on this?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me say that I'm also the wash technical specialist for World Vision Ghana. Yes, I've listened to the Honorable Minister, and I agree with him perfectly. You know, the proposal for the establishment of the National Sanitation Authority is also expected to come with the establishment of a National Sanitation Fund. You see, the building block for improved sanitation includes greater prioritization, investment, regulation, compliance, and enforcement, rewards and sanctions. And then you can also talk about a very important component, a comprehensive, sustained behavior change communication strategy in order to carry the citizens along. But I think investments are very crucial. Even though without behavior change, no amount of investment will be able to yield the desired change in terms of improvement in sanitation. But I think that
the fight for sanitation and water, cleaners of water, is it a concern of funds or is it a behavioral challenge?
Yes, it is both. I mean, if you have behavior change and you can't still have the financing to do the infrastructure and all the services required, you will fail. But if you also have the investments without behavior change, no amount of investment can let you succeed. And so it is both ways. And I think that as a country, we have not invested enough when it comes to sanitation. And so the minister's call for me is in the right direction, provided the National Sanitation Authority will also be established.
Are you concerned about how this will be decentralized and how it will be implemented?
Yes, I mean, first of all, I think that the funds should not just come from government. Government, they have a contribution. But I think that development partners also have a role to play, as well as civil society and NGOs, and then also corporate donors and even citizens. And so I think that there are a number of ways where we can mobilize the resources. But when it comes to its management, I believe it will be important to have a broad a spectrum of specialists who will manage this fund and then be able to disburse them at the district, regional, and even at the national level for the specific assignments for which the fund will be established.
Right.
And I think that once we do that and carry citizens along, that one is very, very important. Once we are able to carry citizens along and then be able to reorient them and also get their consciousness about the importance of living in a sanitized environment, very soon we'll begin to see improvements in our sanitation situation.
Mr. Taihin, thank you so much for talking to us this afternoon. Now, away from that, after months of being engulfed in darkness, street lights sited along the Jubilee House, Ghana's seat of government, have finally been fixed. The long-standing blackouts left motorists and pedestrians struggling to navigate the poorly lit stretch. Collins Frimpong reports, however, that some key roads, including the Kanda Highway, remain in the dark.
For over a year, many of Accra's streetlights have been darker than they should be, not just in hidden alleys, but on some of the city's most crucial roads. From the stretch in front of Jubilee House, the very heart of Ghana's government, streetlights failed, forcing motorists and pedestrians to navigate in near total darkness. Minority Leader Penyo Markin demanded answers to the situation on the floor of Parliament.
On the road leading to the Jubilee House, we know that the Minister for Greater Accra promised us that our light will be on, the street light will be on. Mr. Speaker, it's not good for the security of the presidency if the entire route leading to the office of the president is so dark, and this is in the heart of the city.
The new Greater Accra Regional Minister took office with a bold promise. Within 50 days, at least 70% of the city's streetlights would be restored.
Within 50 days in office, all these things should be fixed. Within 50 days in office.
All the streetlights?
Yes, not even all, but we'll make sure that majority, at least 70% of it should be, yes.
True to her word, the streetlights on the Jubilee House stretch have been switched back on, breaking almost a year of darkness. The same can be said for the Bema Camp Highway, Airport and Nima. Unfortunately, the glow quickly fades on some highways. The Mahama Highway and portions of the Spinkters flyover through to American House plunge back into darkness. At the Akoje intersection, where the Jubilee House Road exits, the streetlights fail once again, leaving the road from the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, GBC, through to Kwame Nkrumah interchange, cloaked in shadows.
Now, Salaga in the Savannah region was a key site in the transatlantic slave trade. Countless men, women and children were captured and sold. In the 17th century, it became a place of imaginable pain, separation and loss. As part of our Ghana Month series, we revisit the market's painful legacy and its lasting impact on Ghana's identity. Nana Bwachiyadom reports.
Oh, freedom.
From the 16th century, Salaga was one of the leading market centers in West Africa. Salaga was founded in the 16th century Gonja Kingdom before being overrun by Ashanti forces in 1744. The British defeat of the Ashantis during the Third Anglo-Ashanti War in 1874 ended the Ashanti rule over Salaga. However, the British abolition of slavery in the Gold Coast in 1874 to 1875 did not end the Salaga slave market practices in the Gold Coast. Today, the remains of the Salaga slave market stands as a memory to those who suffered here. The slave trade may have ended, but its remnants are still felt. I met Ibrahim Jamal, the cultural officer at the Salaga slave market. He explains the history of the slave market.
Slaves here abroad from Upper East, Upper West, and then the surrounding villages, led by the slave agents who were the Hausa and then the Zabarma people. One thing about the Salaga slave market is that the Europeans have never been here. It's only when they get to Cape Coast, then they are sold to the Europeans.
Ibrahim Jama explains the suffering of slaves through their slave masters.
For the slave agents, they don't care. Yes, they don't care what you are going through. The only one, at the end of the day, the strong ones. So when you are weak and then they realize you are dying, the unchained will leave you in the bush, you die, animal feed will come and then feed on your flesh. Yes, and they are fed once in a day. When bringing them, they have little water to drink them before arriving. If you are a stubborn slaves, they shackle you with this on your legs. So when we were at the market, you see something of that sort. They are shackled on the leg and then hook it to a tree. So when you are shackled or you are chained like that, you remain there.
The eve of European colonization, which eventually brought to the end of internal slave trade, really came as good news to the people. For Joy News, my name is Nana Bwachidankwe.
You're watching News Today. A recap of our stories. A member of Parliament for Tafo sues Attorney General at the Supreme Court over petitions to remove Chief Justice, and as well mixed reactions to President Mahama's call for establishment of specialized fast-track courts to deal with cases of financial misappropriation. We also brought you an update on how the GPRT is opposing plans by Interior Minister to introduce a dedicated levy on fuel purchases to retool Ghana National Fire Service. We go for a quick break. When we come back, business, showbiz and sports. Please stay.
Hi, welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Finance Minister Dr. Kasi Olatoforsen has revealed that government is implementing some aggressive measures to help check expenditure across all institutions and agencies. The Finance Minister disclosed this when the World Bank Country Director Robert O'Brien paid a working visit to the ministry. Here's more.
The Finance Minister revealed that some of these expenditure rationalization measures being implemented will see government official travel delegations reduced significantly. He added that 3 officials will now be expected to accomplish the work of 10 while ensuring greater efficiency but not compromising productivity. The minister added that as priority is to send a clear message to both investors and development partners that the country is on the path to sustainable spending. Dr. Forsen also noted that government remains committed to ensure that all these measures are carried out within the framework of the IMF program. The minister maintained that these measures reflect government's commitment to prudent management of the country's resources, drive growth, and improve the livelihood of Ghanaians. Dr. Atuforsen during the meeting also thanked the World Bank for their role in the recovery of Ghana's economy, as well as their promise to extend fresh funding to some sectors.
Now, the World Bank's Business Ready 2024 report has revealed that setting up a business in Ghana is difficult and cumbersome compared to the country's peers in sub-Saharan Africa. The report assesses the regulatory framework and public services directed at firms and the efficiency with which regulatory framework and public services are combined in practice. Here's more.
According to the report, Ghana scored lowest in market competition, business entry, and dispute resolution. In addition, the report said the country lacks an electronic case management system that allows initial complaint to be filed electronically. Speaking at the launch, the World Bank's Division Director for Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone, Robert Talusio O'Brien, said the time processes to register business in Ghana is too cumbersome and difficult.
Registering a new business in Ghana takes 57 days. 57 days, compared to 3 days in Rwanda. Why? Can't Ghana do just as well as Rwanda? Of course it can, of course it can. Market competition, Ghana scores only 32 out of 100, and the reason for this is weak competition policies and opaque procurement systems. Again, should Ghana be in the bottom third? No. Dispute resolution. This one is really a shocker. According to our data, resolving a commercial case takes an average of 900 days. This is 4 times longer than Côte d'Ivoire.
The report also highlighted some positive marks Ghana scored. These include the highest in labor, utility services, and business insolvency.
So the Be Ready highlights some areas where Ghana is doing well, and I also think it's important to give credit where credit is due. On labor market regulations, for example, Ghana scores 68.6 out of 100. and outpaces much of sub-Saharan Africa in labor rights, clarity, dispute resolution, and fairness. So it's one thing to celebrate. Utility services, Ghana scores 68.5, well above Cote d'Ivoire, which is 58.9, Rwanda, which is 67.8, and is closing the gap with Tanzania, 78.8.
And that's it for the segment. Sports is coming up next.